Okay, before we get started, I've got something I need to get off my chest. This game was another distributed by Limited Run Games. Of course it was, they seem to get everything. But I'm really starting to hate them. It started just as a simple distaste for the price. This one cost me twice the digital price, and the months-long wait for it to actually show. But no, it goes way beyond that. How about the fact that they seem to get everything, and if you miss on that short pre-order window, short of getting lucky and finding it at a Best Buy and nowhere else, you're not getting it. They prey on the fear of missing out. There's also the lack of content on the disc. The point of a physical release is posterity, to have a copy that can't be taken away from you or delisted. The people who care about that kind of stuff are Limited Run's core audience, so why not actually give them that? When they're trying to be fast and put out a new game, trying being the key word because of how long it actually takes to ship, the disc doesn't include update patches or DLC, so you're still beholden to digital access. I wouldn't mind the price so much if it included all the DLC, or was at least a fair price. Yeah, remember when they put out the Blaster Master Zero games individually for $30 each when other regions got a complete trilogy on one disc or cartridge for $60? Yeah, that's still kind of expensive, but at least they're not ripping you off charging you $30 for a 200 megabyte game. Oh, but they give indie studios a chance to get a physical release they would never have. Yeah, because Ubisoft and Bethesda really needed the help. But we're talking about Inti Creates here. Oh, would you look at that? It's my copy of the Striker Pack. And that's weird. It was published by Nighthawk Interactive, who printed enough copies that I can go on Amazon right now and buy a new one if I so desire. So they didn't even need Limited Run coming to their help. They easily could have found another publisher that would have done a better job. The thing is, sometimes I don't mind Limited Run. They're bringing out a physical release of AVGN 1 and 2 Deluxe, and I didn't mind buying that. Sure, I still don't know when it's coming, and it was more expensive than it would be digitally, but that's a game that was years old. It clearly wasn't getting released another way. There's clearly not going to be any more updates, so there's no pretense that this is for anything but physical enthusiasts and collectors. And they're also not trying to scam more money out of you by offering any sorts of collector's editions. So that's the way it should be. And then they go ahead and announce ports of the shitty NES Bill and Ted game, charging their full price for it, and all goodwill goes right out the window. And that's without bringing up any of their alleged shitty behavior, which is all well documented. Fuck this company. But let's see what's actually on the disc they printed. Right out of the gate, this was a game that had a lot of promise behind it. While it took a step back in story quality, the first Gunvolt Chronicles was the high bar in terms of gameplay. It controlled beautifully, the level designs were solid, the weapons were useful, the bosses were a bit too challenging, but not too bad. It was a great game. It wasn't perfect, but there's every reason to believe the sequel would fix all that, starting with the story. The destruction of the AI Demerzel at the end of the last game has brought peace to the world, but an unusual blaster rifle suddenly appeared in Kopen's hands one day, and while he's examining it, he, Lola, and Kohaku are all pulled into another world, one devoid of natural life. They're picked up by a robot named Null, and later investigate the lone landmark of the world, a giant tower known as the Grave Pillar, guarded by a robot named Ypsilon that bears a resemblance to Kopen. Kopen beats all the guardians of the towers to get key cards to proceed higher, when Ypsilon takes Kohaku to the mother computer, who integrates herself into Kohaku's body to give herself admin privileges to reset the world. Kopen wins, gets Kohaku back, and they go back like nothing ever happened. Wow. I didn't think it was possible to have a more superfluous story than the first game, but here it is. I recognize that I said most of the characters in the first game weren't very interesting. I stand by that, but just completely dropping them all really divorces this game from its predecessor in feel. Kohaku stuck around, I appreciate that, but Blade got cut too, and that's a waste. I guess it's better to focus their efforts on one character instead of a bigger cast, but Null isn't too interesting either. She's just helpful. She provides exposition, she's looking for a purpose, and she sacrifices herself for one. This lack of development extends to the world. Okay, I get it. There really isn't much to see in this world. It's a wasteland, but when the plot of your game is literally, we were suddenly sucked into a new world, you have to do more world building than this. Even the first game did a little more, and that one had the benefit of being in the same world as the core Gunvolt games. I'm not even sure the characters know anything, given their lack of drive. Yeah, their goal is just, let's get to the top of this tower, it might tell us something, and the only reason Copen fights the bosses is because they're physically in the way. So most of the game lacks a strong goal. And even when it does get going at the very end, it's still missing a memorable single moment like the butterfly effect the first game had. Oh, and much like storytelling high bar Sonic 06, they've already disregarded everything that happened, because the ending is everybody making it back. No, I don't know what the blaster rifle that appeared in Copen's hands was, and I don't know if I ever will. There is one thing that gives this story a little bit of identity, and that's the voices. For the first time in the games, there's an English voice track. I stress in the games because the OVA also previously had English audio, where Copen was voiced by the legendary Peter Van Gom.
Okay, whatever you say.
Here he's played by Alejandro Saab, who I've heard in Freedom Planet and Evangelion but am not familiar with. And Lola is voiced by Cassandra Lee Morris. You say Morgana and Sothis, I say Ritsu. But there still isn't any dialogue during gameplay, so English audio doesn't make a game-changing difference. Thankfully, it's also been confirmed that Gunvolt 3 will also have English voiceover and mid-stage dialogue, so it's all good. But I'm sorry, bro, I know it's not anyone's fault, but I've been watching Game Grumps since literal day one. Hearing Aaron do a voice is just hearing Aaron do a voice.
Though it does explain his strange death quote.
Oh! My dick's falling off!
So, once again, Inti Creates has dropped the ball on story. Maybe it's intentional, so they can put all their focus on the gameplay side. That's how the first game handled it, and it worked there, when Copen's gameplay was refined from Gunvolt 2.
Is it getting weird yet that I'm saying the first game comes after Gunvolt 2?
In fact, I'd say he felt pretty much perfect in Chronicles 1. It was just the rest of the game around him that could use a little fine-tuning. Well, I should preface this with a statement. I love Inti Creates. They're my favorite game developer because they make quality stuff that appeals to me and aren't afraid to do what they want. Yeah, this Blaster Master Zero was well regarded and performed well, but we want to put a plant girl with big melons in the next one because we can.
And it is glorious!
They do quality work, but they also have a serious problem when they try new things. In that they replace something that works with something that doesn't. They finally got Cyber Elves right in Mega Man 03, completely start over in 04. The way weapons have worked in every Mega Man game, totally fuck it up in Mighty Gunvolt Burst for no good reason. Copen doesn't have a default projectile anymore. His basic attack is now this razor wheel with a 3-hit combo. Yes, Mega Man 0 was great, but that's not who Copen was. If you wanted somebody to emulate that same style, you'd have to have another character known for using a sword, somebody that you potentially made a point to not include. But if you lock onto an enemy, it works the same as it always has, and I always lock onto enemies as soon as I see them, so I guess it's not a debilitating change. No, that honor goes to the removal of bullets. In prior Copen games, bullets were used to limit his abilities, easy to replenish but not always available, limiting his aerial dashes. What did I say in my Gunvolt 2 video? And it's also a hell of a lot more fun to just go crazy. It's just so exhilarating to go nuts and bounce around like a pinball and see just how far you can keep up the streak. No wonder this guy got his own spin-off series. This is awesome! Yeah, guess what they nerfed? Copen can only dash once in the air. He hits an enemy, he locks on, and now he has to drop to the ground before doing anything else. And I do mean the ground. If the nerf was only limited to having one dash at a time, but it replenished upon hitting any object, whether it be enemy or wall, I'd be fine. But nope, it feels like this was a change meant solely to removing combos, aka the best part of playing as Copen. Oh, but the idea isn't gone. His old playstyle is still present. As an option in the settings menu? No, though there is a way to change his physics between Gunvolt 2 and Chronicles, and I don't know the difference. But the old air dash system is available, thanks to Awakening mode. Let's be fair, the lack of purpose to Awakening mode, where you reach 1,000 kudos and get Lola singing, was something I critiqued, though one could argue it's better to not lock something cool behind a tough skill gate. Well, that's what they did. Once Copen enters Awakening, he gains the ability to dash multiple times in midair. And the way they limit it by having a time limit to dash again, which can be refilled by hitting something, it works great. This would have been a totally serviceable update to the mechanic without needing to lock it away. Now, to make up for this, Kudos is far easier to keep this time. There's no longer any selection for how Kudos is handled. It will never be lost due to getting hit. Though, due to the lack of combo multipliers, it's also more difficult to bring the number up to the threshold in a timely manner. Now more than ever, it's encouraged to skip checkpoints to maintain score to get the game to play right. And finally, I died enough that I noticed this being a real issue, so I can personally confirm it really sucks to get halfway through a stage, fall down a pit, and have to start from the beginning. Now that there's one less penalty for getting hit, they had to even it out by also removing Pervasion. If you get hit, you're taking damage. So you're going to get hit more often. Couple that with the almost total lack of healing options in the first game, Inti Creates felt a reason to provide a solution. They just did it in a real band-aid on a bullet wound way. Lola's picked up a new talent since last we saw her, Healing Mode. Anytime, anywhere, no limits, she can fully heal Copen. The only dissuading element is that it acts like a portable checkpoint, meaning it converts Kudos into score and resets it to 0. But if you can deal with the limitations that not being awakened brings, don't care about score, and pay attention, you will absolutely never die. Besides bottomless pits, naturally. It only bothers me so much, aside from the fact that it's breaking something that wasn't broken, because everything else around it is fine. The visuals and music are good as always, the level designs are enjoyable, the bosses are well made, and the weapons get used. Okay, the ice boss is annoying because of the widespread of bullets that all freeze Copen and stop his shots, and the final boss rubs me the wrong way because of how many cycles it takes to kill, but the game is a comfortable experience. Unless you're going for the true ending, of course. Yes, one of the worst things about the core Gunvolt games, something that was cut from the first Chronicles, back in its full glory. And again, much like what I said about Gunvolt 2's implementation, it's both better and worse. Worse because of the method of getting said ending. Pretty much every stage has 4 of these tokens, same as the first game where I don't think they did anything of note. They're still worth finding because they give 500 kudos each upon collecting, so it's great for awakening quickly, but now finding every one in every stage unlocks hard mode. That's way more work than 7 gems. And then you have to beat hard mode to get the true ending. So it's not just unnecessarily playing the final stage twice, it's playing the whole game twice. Cards on the table, I didn't do it. I just looked it up, so I can only rely on the accounts of others. And according to those reports, hard mode is ridiculously hard, to the point that a patch added a casual mode to the hard mode just to get players through it. But at least it's not a new stage or a new boss like previous games' true endings. Only the dialogue in the ending changes. What was all but said in the normal ending is now outright said, and null survives. So those who don't have the patience aren't missing out on anything. But those who put in the effort are rewarded with nothing. And aside from that fruitless endeavor, just about the only extra content are the bonus bosses, which are all DLC. Fights against characters like Jason from Blaster Master, Kieran from the upcoming Gunvolt 3, Satania for some reason, but the only one I have is the one that came with the physical release, Kohaku from Kogen's Sword of Rewind.
Okay, let me take a sec here and just talk about how weird this crossover is. Kogen sounds almost identical to Kopen, which is only his English name, so that doesn't even make sense in Japanese. But Kohaku is also the name of a character in this very game, and both games look fairly similar and came out the same day. And it worked. This crossover was at least enough to get me to try out the Kogen demo, and I wasn't into it. This fight kind of sucks too. Or maybe I'm just an idiot.
We have to look at things objectively here. Inti Creates made a good game. Taken in a vacuum, the mechanics all work and come together correctly, and everything surrounding it is well made. It's just frustrating that they already had it right, and if they had just let it sit and not reinvented the wheel, this could have been it. I wonder if that was their intent at some point, seeing as Anchor Nexus is the only weapon returning from the first game, but its effectiveness is brought to near zero when it can't be chained. The change in gameplay isn't really a massive problem, so by that token, Gunvolt Chronicles 2 comes recommended as a solid entry in the series. It's simply annoying that it could have been, should have been better. If they wanted to keep the Chronicles series hyper-focused on one style, fine. If they wanted to experiment with a new style, fine. But they had to pick one. Either keep Kopen the way he always was, no bullshit attached, or give us what we want and make Blade playable. And I'm not gonna lie, seeing all the changes Gunvolt 3 promises to bring, it makes me worried how it'll turn out. I want to have faith, but, well, I guess we'll see. It'll almost be out by the time this video comes out, but because I don't learn, I won't know for sure until close to the end of the year.
I know I have a problem. I promise I'm working on it. But only together can we beat this addiction.
Look at my resume! 30 years experience and jack it off! Fuck you, Baskin Robbins. Coming on my face is still on the table. No! I hit end! I hit end! No! Jennifer dumped me.